What is up, guys? This is Tcg Sam here, and this weekend I just got top 8 at a remote duel OTS qualifiers with pure trap Shaddoll, so I'm going to be showing off my deck list and going over some of my matchups. So if you like this type of content, be sure to let me know by leaving a like, commenting, subscribing. But with that being said, let's just hop straight into it. So for the main deck, play 40 cards. I played 2 Wendy only. This is going to seem a little weird, but I really felt that I didn't necessarily need to see I didn't want to even see all these Shaddoll monsters. Because, like, the worst hands in this deck are the ones where you just have the Shaddoll monsters, because they don't do anything by themselves. You'd much rather draw your traps, or if you draw Shaddoll monsters, you pretty much only want them to be with, like, Shaddoll fusion. If you draw them together, that's why, like, you're gonna see I'm gonna play a kind of low Shaddoll count. But yeah, double Wendy. I went through 2 in, like, every single game I played, but I never felt that like I would lose if I didn't have the third. So I think 2 is fine. I played 2 Schemata. I would seriously consider cutting this down to 1. Just play 3 Wendy, because Wendy is a different attribute for app clone. But it's up to you. I felt this ratio was fine. The last 2 of Shaddoll, 2 Shaddoll Hedgehog. This is important because you need to be searching a lot of your spells or traps, and so you want to always make sure you have one to summon off of Wendy. For the 1-ofs, Beast, Dragon, Aerial, Genius, Falco. Like I said, very, very small Shaddoll package. These 3 are pretty standard as 1-ofs. I side the second Aerial, side the second Dragon for specific matchups. Genius is really good against decks like Tri Brigade, but I usually side this out against decks like Drytron. Falco is really good to help with your grind game. Next up, the last monster I played was the Cypher Gamma package. This is the only hand trap that I decided to play this weekend. I felt that Gamma was incredibly powerful. It's a perfect light main deck light monster for Shaddoll fusion, and of course, a lot of the times it helps your traps resolve if you're going first or second. Most likely second. It helps your trap resolve to break boards, and it's just really, really good for that reason. Triple Super Poly for starting off the spells. I know a lot of people say this card isn't that good this format, and most of the times they would be kind of right, but you're going to see in the extra deck why this card was alive in every single matchup for me. So stay tuned for that. I'll discuss a little more about that in the extra deck, but this card is just so powerful. It's a bomb card. It's part of your engine because you use it to, like, fuse away the Shadolls. It's a really good interruption. It doesn't lose threat reboot as well, which is really, really good. It breaks boards, and it's like a disruption. Like, what more could you want from a card? This card is really, really good. Triple Shaddoll fusions, pretty standard. It's really good in this deck because it's a quick play. And then for the event, I only main decked 1 Shaddoll fusion. The reason for this was a lot of times I figured, okay, I'm going second. If I'm going second, my opponent's going to have an established board, and the only way I'm going to be able to actually even play this card is to have my traps, like, break their board or something. So, like, this wouldn't even be live until, like, my second turn after that, and that's already, like, turn 3, turn 4 in the game. So I just figured that just have 1 just to be able to search off a Hedgehog or dump off a Construct when I needed it to go for when I had the game under control. And because, like, going first, I usually don't want to fusion summon something because, 1, a lot of my Shaddolls have disruptive effects I want to fuse with on my opponent's turn, and plus it also doesn't allow me to make, like, app clone as a disruption. So that's why I only played 1. I didn't really miss it. The only times I kind of missed it was, like, when I wish I had more fusion spells, when I just drew a bunch of Shaddolls, but, like, you can't really control that. For the trap cards, most of the deck is trap cards. Triple Sinister Shadow Games. This is why I thought that playing a low Shaddoll count was fine, because this essentially acts as other Shaddoll monsters. It turns your Shaddoll monsters into disruptions when you set them on your field. It gives you a lot more value off the Shaddolls, because a lot of the times I would have Shaddoll set off of, like, Wendy or something, and then in the end phase I'd flip Sinister Shadow Games, get their effects, and then next turn fuse with them to get even more advantage. So it's just really, really powerful. For the other traps, Triple Torrential, this is really, really good. Triggers your Shaddoll effects, and it's just super, super huge because no one played around it. Every time this card resolved, it was a huge blowout. It's just really, really good. And Strike, obviously, very, very good. It essentially helps paired with, like, any other, like, removal trap, like Torrential, Punishment, Dynamiscus, can essentially just break a board on its own. It's really, really powerful. Speaking of which, 2 Punishment, 2 Dynamiscus, 2 Trap Trick. So these 2 were, like, my other removal trap cards. Obviously, Punishment sending Applone is really, really powerful, and the fact that it locks you out of the extra deck doesn't particularly matter, because Applone can search you Schism to fuse on the next turn anyways. Dynamiscus was really good for spot removal for, like, spells or traps as well, and Trap Trick was to search pretty much any of these, or Shadow Games, or Torrential. So yeah. Trap Trick was really, really good this weekend. Like, I wanted to play 1 because I just never want to draw 2. I drew 2 a few times, and luckily we were able to win those games, but drawing 2 just absolutely sucks. Like, I might honestly just consider cutting this down to 1 and then just maxing out on these traps more. This just acts as like 1 extra copy, but something that you never want to draw multiples of. The last 2 of trap, I played double resh. I think this was a mistake. In theory, I thought I could trap trick it out just in case I needed it, but it just never came up. A lot of times I just sided out the extra copy, so like it just didn't really come up. It should have been a 3rd punishment or a 3rd dynamiscus. And then finally, 1 Shaddoll schism, self-explanatory, very, very powerful in Shaddolls. So that's it for the main deck, 40 cards. For the extra deck, double WINDA, double construct, double Apolone. So I think double Apolone definitely needed because you play punishment, double WINDA standard. I only played 2 construct. I felt that I only needed 2 because once I make the first one, essentially the first one gets me access to Resh if I ever need WINDA construct to dump like Apolone or something, or Aerial, excuse me, on my opponent's turn. So I figured that was more than enough. So I thought 2 was fine. 3 never came up for me. I needed to make space for something else, which you'll see. That card being El Shaddoll Wendigo. Now you might be wondering why I'm playing this this trashy card, and it isn't because it isn't for its effect, that's for sure. So this was what I was talking about when I was going over Super Poly. When I said it was live in every single matchup, I wasn't kidding, because essentially Wendigo allows you to make Super Poly live in the matchups it originally wasn't. If you think about it, Tri-Brigade Zoo plus Virtual Worlds plus Prank Kids, because they don't have light or dark attributes, unlike like Drytrons or something. So against them, they all actually end on wind monsters. If you think about it, Tri-Brigade Zoo ends on Appaloosa, that's a wind monster. Battle Butler is a wind monster. Shen or Crystal Wing is a wind monster. So that makes Wendigo essentially makes your Super Poly live in every single matchup. And the reason I wanted it to be live is this just such a good card. It's a bomb card, like I said, it's a bomb card and an engine card all rolled into one. It's just super incredible. Obviously, its effect like could come up if you have like a WINDA like to protect it, but I never made it this weekend, but like it did come up like once, but I was like anti-spelled, so I couldn't get a Shaddoll on board before using the Super Poly, so I didn't really make it. But I think in theory this card is really, really good, and you guys should definitely consider it, especially if your locals is like full of these decks, just because how powerful Super Poly is. You want it live in every single matchup. And sacrificing 1 extra deck slot for it is definitely worth it in my opinion. But the Super Poly target I think is incredibly important to have is Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because this deck kind of struggles with Dragoon. So Super Poly was my out to Dragoon. Starving Venom is a very good fusion monster to make. Elder Entity Ancestors for punishment. I never sent it. I always sent Apolone. Apolone like can sometimes just be better than this because you can grab an Aerial or something and banish their graveyard, or set up your own engine. For the Link monsters, Gravity Controller, Artemis for the Link ones. These are very, very self-explanatory. Averting Anaconda. This card is really, really good. When you get 2 monsters on board, this can be like a Super Poly or a Shaddoll. A lot of times I just sent Shaddoll Fusion off of this, ended on like a Construct, like Aerial banish their stuff, and then like Hedgehog search something, and then like have an L on my opponent's turn. It was just really, really good. Cross Sheep. This card is really good for link climbing. In theory, you can also keep it on the board. So when you keep like fusing monsters with it, you get more and more advantage. I played Shaddoll Construct. I made this once, and it was decent, but a lot of the times I figured in Trap Shaddolls, you're going to be, especially with Synergy Shadow games, you're essentially going to be having a lot of flip monsters on the board, and Shaddoll Construct is just another way, another fusion outlet, and it's a light monster. You guys don't have to play this if you don't want to, but I thought it was nice. And finally, one Boral Sword. This was just, I made it once, like hard made it with like 4 monsters to go for game, but yeah, Boral Sword, you need something to kill your opponent, and this is when after you like Cross Sheep and start fusioning a lot, Boral Sword is just enough for game. That's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, I played Triple Phantasme. This card was super, super incredible this weekend. I even considered maining it, but I ultimately decided against it because I wanted more traps in my deck. But Phantasme is a really, really good card against pretty much every single deck. It always went in pretty much game 2 and game 3. The reason for that is like going second, you might be like, oh, you're not drawing to hand traps. Like, what's the point of playing Phantasme? Well, you do realize, like, essentially that, like, your Super Polys and your trap cards become your board-breaking cards. So I wanted to see specific cards in specific matchups, so, like, Super Poly against, like, Dragoon decks or whatever, and Phantasme was just really, really incredible for that. Definitely would keep playing this. One Pankratops, I saw it, like, once, and I had to discard it off Super Poly, so I can't say much about it, but it's a really, really good card. The other extra aerial, the extra dragon, these are for specific matchups. This always came in against like Drytron and Salad. It was really, really good. And I side the other two Shaddoll fusions, so yeah, don't worry, I'm not only playing one. This was for when we were going second. I would essentially take out like upwards of like 11 cards in my main deck, and like just side in a bunch of like these cards. So like I played Duster, Triple Night Beam as well. Duster honestly could be something else, but I just had like a 15th card. I just threw in Duster. I thought it was all right. Night Beam is really, really good against Prank Kids and Tri Brigade, because essentially when Tri Brigade commits like everything to their Appaloosa and like their Revolt, usually it's good against combo decks, but against like Trap Shadolls, like it's pretty bad. You don't particularly care about Appaloosa. As long as you take away all their follow up with like a Night Beam on the Revolt, then like they can't win from there pretty much. Night Beam was really, really powerful. Feather Duster, I never used it, but in theory it's good. Triple Judgment, this is for going first so you don't lose to like Lightning Storm, Feather Duster, Denko, stuff like that. So that's it for the deck this weekend. Now I'm going to be going over some of my matchups in just a moment. Alright, so getting into my matchups, I ended 7th place at the OTS Qualifier, top 8. I went 4-2, so it's not the greatest record, but like I felt like a lot of my losses, like one of them was out of my control, the other one like I misplayed pretty bad, which I guess I'll get into. So round 1, I got a bye because my opponent didn't show up. Round 2, we played against Tri Brigade Zoo, and this game was kind of wild. Game 1, I drew Driver Gamma, but I was able to stop his Tri Brigade plays and just controlled the game from there with like punishment, and punishment like kept popping his normal summons, like Dynamiscus kept getting rid of his stuff, and then I have like my L Shaddoll fusion as well with a bunch of Shaddolls to keep making plays from there. So we take down game 1. Game 2, he actually makes me go first, which was kind of unexpected, but like I didn't particularly open super well. I had like a strike and like a Wendy, I think, so I had to like T-set because my hand was full of Shaddoll. So like that's kind of the bad thing about this deck. Like if you draw too many Shaddolls, it's just really, really bad, which is why I would even consider like lowering the Shaddoll count even more. But here's where I misplay, my first like biggest misplay of my day actually. My opponent starts off with normal summoning Rat, and for some reason I thought it'd be wise to strike it. Just made as soon as I did it, I was like, yeah, that makes no sense. I don't know why I did that. Especially, I got punished for it because he had a Monster Reborn to still go into Zeus, but I definitely should have just saved Strike for either Zeus or Fair Jeet, because like, even if he's not going into Zeus, and he gets all the guys engraved, he makes a Fair Jeet, I can strike the Fair Jeet, or I can strike whatever Tri Brigade monster he summons off of Fair Jeet when it uses the effect. So I figured, so yeah, it was just totally incorrect of me to strike the Rat, or I can strike a Zeus, so like, it just makes no sense. Strike is just such a powerful card for that reason, and like, I could take out like all the extra deck pieces, all the Zoo pieces from his extra deck, so like, yeah, it made absolutely no sense, and this actually kind of ended up costing me, because essentially he just kind of controlled the game from like Zeus from there, with Zeus, and like, I didn't really have any out to it. I kept drawing like Shaddoll monsters. It was just really, really bad. So essentially, I just lost anyways, because like, even if I strike the Rat, like I still lose to Karas discarding something, so like it made no sense. But anyways, game 3, I make him start. We just pass back and forth for 2 turns because like I'm just setting cards, he's not doing anything. I essentially at one point go for a construct play and then set up like a Red Shaddoll after baiting like Ash and Bell on like a Shaddoll fusion. So like I go Shaddoll fusion, he goes Ash, I go Gamma, he goes Bell. I'm like, sure, whatever, I have L Shaddoll fusion to make my guys anyways. And then from there, I think I'm safe because I'm like, oh, I have like a Shaddoll fusion, or I have like, I have a Shaddoll L Shaddoll fusion plus a Resh Shaddoll incarnation on his turn. I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice because I can just go, oh, Resh, bring back Construct over. Sorry, it wasn't an L, it was some other like, it was like Dynamiscus, I think. I had Dynamiscus plus a Resh, and I'm like, okay, I should be good because I can Dynamiscus as normal, I can like Resh, summon back Construct, send Aerial, banish his materials, but he Feather Dusters me, so I'm like, okay, you know what, that's fine, I can still bring back Construct can send like Aerial, banishing his stuff, and then this guy goes Anaconda into Dragoon, and he pops my board and then kills me. Like, it's just insane. Who plays Dragoon in Tri Brigade Zoo? Like, I just had no way to stop it. I didn't expect it at all. I just got completely blindsided by it. So, our mistake game 2 cost us the match. And this is something that I'll remember for a very long time. Like, these losses, like, it really hurts. But there's nothing we can do. So, we moved to round 3. We actually played against Skull Servants, of all things. Game 1, I just kept he made like the Underworld Goddess after spamming the board, and I just like Dynamiscused it, and then I just kind of took control of the game from there because I essentially just blocked his one big King of Skull Serpents attack, and then essentially I was just able to control the game with my traps and stuff from there. There wasn't anything he can do. Game 2, he went first. And I didn't really have any hand traps to stop him, so I set Torrential Tribute, Super Poly, and I made like a Venom with his like non-affected guys. So he had a guy, the lady in white makes like his king and like his other guys unaffected by like spell or traps effects, and it was really crazy. So like I couldn't Super Poly those away. I had to Super Poly like his Link Revo and a lady. It was really weird, but essentially once we're able to make Starving Venom, like we just kind of controlled the game from there. One thing to note though about this round, my camera DC'd, and like at the time he didn't say anything, so like we kept playing after I reconnected it, and then right when we were about to go into time, he's like, oh, you're actually like, you lose because your camera DC'd. But then I'm like, and I was like, at that point I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy's trying to shark me just because he's about to lose. But thankfully he didn't, so we move on with a win because we were definitely winning that game too anyways. He had like 1 or 2 cards in hand, I had like everything I needed. But yeah, we win that one. Round 4 we play against Salad, we lose the die roll again. Game 1 he bricks, really unfortunate for him. And I kept removing his like top normal summon monsters. I removed his Buffalo, his Prohibit Snake with like double Dynamiscus, and I was just able to control the game from there. Game 2, he sets up a Roar plus an Ash and like a Gazelle in hand. So he actually doesn't negate Shaddoll Fusion, and then from there I knew like I just won the game because I just got like +3 with all my effects. It's just insane. Phantasmic put in a lot of work there. It was an extra body on the board to like threaten his monsters because his monsters are pretty small. Eventually, I link my Construct and Phantasmic way into Anaconda, send Shaddoll Fusion, go Aerial. It's just really good. There's not much you can do about that. We take it down. Round 5, we play against Phantom Knights. We lose the die roll once again. Game 1, I literally gamma his Torn Scales because he goes Emergency Teleport, summon the Torn Scales, discard level 3 Extender. So at this point I'm thinking, okay, he doesn't have Phantom Knights he doesn't in hand, otherwise he would have discarded the Phantom Knights. And I decided to gamma it because I was just like, you know what, I think this is okay. This is okay to gamma, and he just scoops it up from there. Game 2, he sets up an Appaloosa, Dark Requiem, Rusty, Fogblade, Anti-Spell. And I actually have Super Poly in the standby phase for Venom using his Rusty and his Requiem, but his Anti-Spell stops my Shaddoll Fusion, my other Elsh, and my other Super Polys. This is really unfortunate, but I thought, yeah, you know what, Starving Venom, I'll attack Appaloosa. He forces off Fogblade. I'm like, alright, cool. Starving Venom should buy me like at least one more turn for me to use my Shaddoll Fusion and my Super Poly next turn, but this guy had a freaking Red Eye Fusion set from last turn, so he just goes that, makes Dragoon, pops my guys, and I'm like, well, okay, and then I just kills me for game. So this is the second time we lost to Dragoon today, which is kind of insane. Game 3, yeah, this was probably the most frustrating loss I've had, just because like it was just so far out of my control. Like I literally opened, I kid you not, Genius, let's see, Beast, Dragon, Wendy, and a Solemn Judgment. And I look down at this, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I set Wendy, set Judgment, and he goes, okay, Standby, Cosmic. I'm like, yeah, okay, I lost. It's just really dumb. If I draw like an extra single trap, I'm pretty sure I win there. Like any trap, Shaddoll Fusion, like I'm pretty sure I win there. Like it's insane, because he only had one way to remove my stuff, so. Yeah, that was really frustrating, but I guess it goes to show like one of the weaknesses of this deck. It should never happen. You can see I specifically built this deck just to minimize the Shaddoll count, because like they suck to draw. You want to be sending them with like Sinister Shadow Cannons and stuff, but it is what it is. So at this point we're 3-2. Going to the last round though, this is probably this is a very interesting game against Rytrons. We lose the die roll one final time in the day. Game 1, my opponent goes Emergencies, Alpha, discard Zeta, and I open up with 5 traps. And I decide better, even though I opened Torrential Strike, I decided better against what's it called? I don't know. I probably should have tried playing it out, but I didn't want to like let him know what I was playing. I wanted him to like miss side or something. Like I don't know what I was thinking. At that point, I probably should have tried playing it out, because I had like Torrential Strike. I believe I had like what, Dynamiscus or something. I had like a few removal traps, and but he had 4 cards in hand. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so even if if he just doesn't summon anything, I actually can't win this game, because I don't think I can win this game. And I figured, like, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. It was a misplay. I probably should have just continued playing it out. I should have tried playing it out, because, like, obviously, I remember always saying, oh, Torrential Tribute plus Strike breaks any board, and in theory, it should have broke that board, but that was my misplay. Game 2, I set Wendy, Torrential Tribute, and Judgment. Judgment his Diviner, because I'm really afraid he's going to send Entis. I just didn't have a choice, because I needed the Torrential to resolve. So he doesn't have any response to that. Luckily for me, he commits to a point where he has like 5 Drytrons on board. I'm just like, okay, Torrential, and he's like, yeah, not much I can do. I summon Beast, discard the Shaddolls in my hand, and I just went from there. Game 3, this is a very interesting one. He actually plays Vandy Ruler. He decided in Vandy's Ruler, that's the card that doesn't let you special summon. Because his hand was kind of awkward, he just made Vandy's Ruler instead of his regular combo. I opened with Dino-Miscus, El Shaddoll, Super Poly, Wendy, and a Strike, and some other Shaddoll monster, I believe. I just set my cards. Dino-Miscus removes his Vandy's Ruler. I strike the Meister on my Beast because I need the draw to discard for Super Poly. And because, like, after I Super Poly with his monster, Wendy summons a guy, and then I can El Shaddoll fusion using, like, Wendy and the Super Polyed guy. So yeah, I really needed that draw to resolve, otherwise both my back row were dead. That's why I ended up striking a Meister. But it works out because eventually he commits like 3 guys to a Drytron Moo Beta Fafnir. I Super Poly him, send Ariel, banishes Ritual Spell, his big Ritual monster, last name he didn't use, and he just scoops. So we're luckily able to win that one. It just, that game was interesting because I think it shows like the power of this deck when I don't brick and draw like 5 Shaddolls that are just really, really bad. To be honest, in the future, like I said, I'd probably up the count of like either Dogmatic Punishment or Paleozoic Dino-Miscus by 1, take away 1 copy of Resh, and then maybe even play a 3rd copy of the other one by taking away a Trap Trick. You just really want to see those like removal traps. Dino-Miscus helps you on bricks, so I think that's really, really good. But anyways, that's gonna be my tournament report. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and with that, I will see you guys soon. Take care.